if you're concerned about his receiving upside, that's some weird con people have from him. I don't know why. Literally just last year, okay? He had more receiving yards than any single season from Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson in their collegiate days. This guy is tier 1 A1 sauce, and I'm putting him in tier 1 from day one. All right, but I'm not a rapper. Sheesh. I'm giving you my updated top 50, well, almost top 50. And by the way, we are including the rookie running back class, all right? In tier numero uno, two guys that have been there all along, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, both of these guys this year averaging over 20 points per game. You know, these young studs, first round picks, proven commodities in fantasy football, these type of guys that you got to trade like 3 first-round picks and a small player to go out there and even think about acquiring. These guys are proven. They're going to help you win both now, in a year from now, in 2 years from now, 3 years from now. These guys are going to be the face of the running back position for the next 5 years. Now, there's another player who is joining this tier for me personally. That is because he is the only player in the 2025 rookie class that I have an elite tag on. His name is Ashton Jeanty. Yes, I know not everybody's going to agree with this take, and that's completely fine if you're on the outside. That's completely fine if you're going to question him being in the Mountain West. But everything that I've done throughout my process tells me he's going to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft, the same draft capital that Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson had, and that he's going to be an elite player at the next level. The type of guy in a year from now that you're saying, yeah, you're going to have to give me 3 first-round picks and a player to go ahead and acquire Ashton Jeanty. This year, he had the #1 PFF run grade at 96.6. This is what's crazy, guys. Check this out, okay? His yards per attempt was 6.9. That is 7th best in the nation this year amongst running backs. Here's the kicker. He had 80 more rushing attempts than the second running back in rushing attempts this year and was still almost 7 yards per attempt. He was also first in missed tackles forced at 151, which was 50 more missed tackles forced than the next guy on the list. And by the way, if you're concerned about his receiving upside, that's some weird con people have from him. I don't know why. They very clearly wanted him to reach 2,000 rushing yards this year. But if you just go back to 2023, literally just last year, okay, he had more receiving yards in 2023 than any other running back in college football. He had more receiving yards than any single season from Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson in their collegiate days. Did you question them as pass catchers coming out? Absolutely ridiculous. This guy is tier 1 A1 sauce, and I'm putting him in tier 1 from day one. All right, but I'm not a rapper. Sheesh, off to a hot start here. Let's go to tier 2A. All right, tier 2A. I say 2A and 2B because it's close, but I think there should be a slight edge towards Saquon Barkley here. As RB4, RB3 without the rookies, right? Saquon Barkley just signed an extension, 2 years, worth, $36 million guaranteed. That basically puts him on the books until 2028 with the Philadelphia Eagles, where I think he'll be 31 or 32 years old. Here's the reality. We're talking about a guy that just finished #1 in points per game, 22.2 points per game. He was the only running back over 22 points per game, over 2,000 rushing yards, almost 6 yards per attempt, was used in the air, on the ground, in the perfect offense, and signed long-term. We try and look at a window of about 1 to 3 years for dynasty football with running backs. Everything can change so drastically. If you're trying to rank, 5 years out, it's a bit silly. Like, no one has a crystal ball here. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in tier 2A, kind of on his lonesome. If you're a competing, team, there's probably not a running back you prefer more right now for your pathway. All right, here's 2B. These are guys that I think, by the end of the 2025 season could easily be in that same tier with Saquon Barkley, if not already. Starting off with Omarion Hampton. Now, Omarion, look, I know not everybody is in on Omarion Hampton, and if you're out there and your complaint is that Omarion isn't the best laterally, he doesn't move quick left to right, he's not twitchy, well, quite frankly, yes, that's not what he does. Like, he's a specialist in a certain style of run game. Are you raving about James Conner because of his elusiveness? No, right? It's a one cut, straight up the seam. I am 220 pounds, but I'm going to outrun every single person on the field. I mean, this guy comes out at the combine, has a 9.7 RAS, runs a 4.46 40-yard dash at 221 pounds. Explosion grade was elite. Speed grade was elite. Size is there, right, to be a workhorse running back. Carried the North Carolina offense a year after Drake May goes to the NFL. And here's the reason why he's at 5th for me right now. because every indication right now is that he's likely to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. If he ends up being a second-round pick, of course we can move the next two guys ahead of him. But as of right now, assuming, and now we know what assuming does, makes an ass out of me, really. But assuming he gets first-round draft capital, this is where I would rank him, all right? All right, at number 6, we've got Bucky Irving. Now, everyone continually has a problem with me being this high on Bucky Irving. That's fine. Like, I feel confident in my conviction on where I have Bucky Irving. I know the Dynasty community is very up or down on him. It's very you're anti or you're in on the price. Here's the deal. Bucky Irving in 2024. Let's not even talk about what he did as a rookie and compare him to other rookies. Let's compare him to the entire NFL. If you look at running backs who had at least 100 rushing attempts this year, Bucky Irving ranked 4th in yards per carry at 5.4. 5.4 yards per carry in the NFL is bonkers, okay? His run grade was 7th best. His yards after contact per attempt, number 1. You know, we talk about how Ashton Genty turns lemons into caviar, right? Bucky Irving has his own lemonade stand, all right? He's the president of the Lemons to Lemonade Club. He was 9th in missed tackles forced per attempt, despite splitting a backfield for the majority of the season. His breakaway percentage was 5th. His yards per route run was 4th, a great weapon out of the backfield. And, okay, we talked about him against all the running backs in the NFL. Let's get specific historically about his rookie season. Here's a list of running backs who are rookies in the past 25 years with at least 240 plus PPR points, that's about 14.5 points per game, 47 plus receptions, and had 5.2 yards per carry. Here's a list. You ready for this? Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Bucky Irving. That is the end of the list. A truly historically great season. And by the way, if you add another qualifier to that, 1,000 rushing yards, Bucky would sit alone historically in the past 25 years. Stop doubting Bucky Irving, all right? From week, what was it? I think 10 onwards, he was averaging more points per game than Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, James Conner, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, Chase Brown. I mean, come on, stop it. All right, at 7th, we have Devon Achane. Look, the majority of people have Devon Achane at the tippy top of this tier. I have no problem with that. That's why tiers are bucketed for me, right? So Bucky Irving and Devon Achane, I would view very similarly. What are you willing to pay for Achane? I'm willing to pay that for Bucky Irving, right? You might not feel the same way, vice versa, but these guys are all in a bucket as far as collective value, where I think they should go in a startup, what you should trade for them. So I love me some Devon Achane. And we do have to keep in mind that for a portion of the 2024 season, Tua Tags was not in this offense and things were not looking great, right? Let's look at with and without Tua and let's split the 2024 season. 11 games with Tua and 6 games without him. And those 11 games with him, 22 points per game, over 22 points per game. Without him, it was more around 9. It was rough. His targets were drastically through the ceiling with Tua. And his rushing yards per game were a little bit better. This was a running back who was definitely reliant on the receiving game, but he's so good at it, I think we can project him to continue to do that throughout his career. If you want an in-depth breakdown of your team with customized trade targets, players to buy, sell, hold, then get your team playbook today by either becoming a yearly Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND or by going directly to the Flock store, regardless of what promo code you're on. And if you want it done live, make sure you get the live tier. Those links are in the pinned comment. All right, in the 4th tier, let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. Look, as a Jonathan Taylor owner in the Flock League, I can tell you that his numbers on a points per game basis, slightly misleading. Like, I don't want to take anything away from him, right? Because this year he averaged 17.5 points per game on the entirety of the season. But if you guys own Jonathan Taylor like I did in fantasy football last year, then you would be on the same page and saying, I had no idea when I could start the guy. It was up, it was down. I didn't know if I was going to get 4 points or 12 or 40, and I know consistency doesn't matter as much, but still, we're talking about a guy 3 games in the playoffs. Here was his points per game in the playoffs. Week 16, 39. Week 17, 27. Week 18, 25. But I mean, if anyone out there owned Jonathan Taylor with this offense built around Anthony Richardson, and maybe it changes with Daniel Jones, it wasn't like that elite guy where you really felt like Jonathan Taylor was going to help you win a league. He was a playable piece, but he wasn't like the centerpiece that he was that one year when he was the RB1 overall in points per game. If you actually look at weeks 1 to 15, he averaged about 13.8 points per game. 13.8 points per game, not even top 20 in that span. So I still love Jonathan Taylor, uber talented on the long-term contract. He's a safe guy, but I don't know if he has the same upside as the guys that I had there in tier number 2B. All right, let's talk about a couple rookies here. And Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, both guys tested out of the gym. Travion Henderson, 8.8 RAS. Quinshon Judkins, 9.9 pretty much. I mean, both of these guys tested very well. Travion is a little bit dinged in their database because of his size. He actually came in at 202 pounds. You know, that might concern you if the year was 2010, thankfully. You know, I remember the Jahmyr Gibbs draft. I had so many people commenting like, you really are in our Jahmyr Gibbs? He's 200 pounds. Like, the NFL has changed, all right? It's okay. And maybe RAS can think about tweaking that. But two guys who actually tested incredibly well. I wouldn't be surprised if either go round 1, but both are not getting out of round 2. And the round 2 hit rate on a running back is drastically higher than any other position. We're talking like 71% hit rate, okay? All right, right after these guys, we've got Breece Hall. Breece Hall, 11th. Now, look, if you take out the rookies, and you think about this for a second, all right, that brings Breece Hall, what, 7th? Is that right? Quick math. Yeah, if I take out 4, he becomes 7th overall. Look, I like Breece Hall a lot. I think he is uber talented, right? Was my RB1 coming out of that class. Here's my big concern with Breece Hall and why I'm not comfortable to buy him at his price point right now, which is like the 103 to the 104.5. I don't want to buy him for that price. I am massively concerned after the Justin Fields signing. They just brought him in. It wasn't backup money. It's starter bridge money, right? Like 2 years, 20 million per, I'm pretty sure. And here's the issue with Breece Hall. A vast majority of his fantasy points, where do they come from, guys? Through the air, through the passing game, right? Dump offs, the passing attack. And this was kind of a similar concern I had last year with Jonathan Taylor as a draft pick, right? Because we had a mobile quarterback in Anthony Richardson. We have a mobile quarterback in Justin Fields, right? And there's just no history with Justin Fields and his past offenses of him dumping the ball off to his running backs consistently. If Justin Fields is in trouble, he's one of the best athletes on the field at all times. He will take off with his legs and try and get a first down, right? That's not the same with an immobile Aaron Rodgers, you know, and before that, you know, the Joe Flacco's of the world and, you know, the Zach Wilsons of the world, right? I mean, think about it this way. Breece Hall in 2023 was first in targets amongst running backs with 95 targets. He lived and died by the air game. In 2024, he was third in targets amongst running backs with 76. And think about it. They had added Devontae Adams. That's still a ridiculous number. With Justin Fields, how many design screen plays are we going to get? How many design receiving plays are we going to get for Breece Hall? When Justin Fields is in trouble and the pocket's breaking down, is he going to look to dump the ball off? He hasn't historically. Please go tell me the running back on his team that got a bunch of receiving work with him as a starter in the NFL. So I'm concerned. I'm definitely willing to sell him, but this is where I would rank him right now. Right after that, we've got Josh Jacobs, who's coming off an absolutely incredible year. Josh Jacobs averaging 17.2 points per game, RB8 overall this year. From week 10 onwards, the money stretch, he was actually the RB4, averaging over 20 points per game. He really carried the workload in that offense. At 13, we have Caleb Johnson. I don't care that he ran a 4.5 40-yard dash. It's ridiculous. All right, I've already talked about this. I'm not going to waste my breath. I think he's an incredible prospect. I keep comparing him to Larry Johnson, Nick Chubb. If he gets round 2 draft capital, this is where we're going to put him. If it's not round 2, we will rethink it. All right, Ken Walker, you know, coming off, look, an up and down season, I would say, for Ken Walker. He finished with 16.5 points per game. Now, the new offensive coordinator that's coming in has talked very highly of him and how they plan to kind of build the offense around him. So I'm kind of taking that with, you know, the coach speak index a little bit into account here. At 15th overall, we have Kyron Williams, who had another decent year, 17 points per game. The issue is the efficiency was really bad this year for Kyron Williams. And we were talking about 4 yards per carry, right? It was not impressive like the year before where he was super efficient, super effective, super explosive, but he still scored a ton of touchdowns, 14 touchdowns this year. I am a little bit concerned that Blake Corum could have another role in year 2. In fact, if you're starting to hear Sean McVay's plan for this year, he's talking about a ton of versatility in his backfield. That's not, you know, it sounds like we're going to see a lot more Blake Corum, so that's a little concerning for me. All right, tier 5 here. We've got Jimmy Let James Cook. I don't mind if you want to put him in the tier above this, but there are just certain moments where the Bills felt like they wanted to share the backfield last year. And James Cook was great, especially in games where they were competitive. A lot of these games where they were up, they took him out. You know, James Cook on the season, 16.7 points per game. From week 10 onwards, we had James Cook averaging around, I think, 16.6 points per game. So it was pretty much the same throughout the entirety of the season. He was a consistent, like, high-end RB2 this year. But I am a little bit concerned that they could potentially add another name to that backfield this offseason. If they don't, of course, you can hold him in a higher regard. At 17, we've got Chase Brown. That seems low, but again, remember the rookies are in here. Samaje Perine, that signing maybe gives you a little bit more hope if you are a Chase Brown owner. Here's the funny thing about Samaje Perine signing with the Bengals, okay? Because the Chase Brown owners are saying, whew, okay, we're good to go. Chase Brown RB1 season. Yeah, my priors are confirmed. Now, the people who don't own Chase Brown are saying, okay, you signed Samaje Perine. Let's not forget that last year, the Chiefs didn't even rely on Samaje Perine as their RB2 when their RB1 went down and Isaiah Pacheco, right? They had to sign Kareem Hunt. They gave Carson Steele a run, right? So there's two sides to this coin. Clearly, the Bengals needed running back depth, right? Zach Moss has that whole neck injury he's dealing with. I don't believe personally that this signing tells us they're not going to draft a running back this year. Now, if they don't, of course, we can bump Chase Brown up in the rankings and expect a huge year from him. But the Samaje Perine, I mean, come on, guys. The Chiefs had one of the worst backfields efficiency-wise last year, and they still didn't use Samaje Perine that much. At 18th overall, we'll have Chuba Hubbard. I love me some Chuba. The biggest, most easy discount buy in fantasy football this year, in Dynasty football this year. He was an RB 13 overall in points per game, 16.1 points per game this year. He was absolutely fantastic. Gets the big contract extension as well. Jonathan Brooks is out for the year, and then Rico Dowdle signs. This is going to be another reason why you can buy him cheap, because people are concerned about Rico Dowdle. Guys, they needed a second running back on the team that had a healthy ACL. They needed that. Please keep that in mind. Chuba Hubbard is still going to, I think, dominate this backfield. At 19 and 20, we have two veterans that I wanted to give respect to, because I still believe at this point of their career, even though they're older guys, they can still have top 5 points per game seasons. That is Christian McCaffrey. That is Derrick Henry. Now, look, I could look at the history of a Derrick Henry, and I could say, look, historically, running backs over the age of 30 have done this, and their production has decreased each and every year. But that would be completely ignoring the fact that there is only one freaking Derrick Henry in the world ever, right? So I'm not going to doubt Derrick Henry. When the guy's wheels falls off, I mean, I'm just going to say, okay, they fell off, all right? He's on my team, I'm competing, they fell off, I'm okay with that, right? It's kind of like the Travis Kelce when he was like 32 years old, right? It's just like, let's let Derrick Henry show me that he's done. With Christian McCaffrey, I think he's the easiest buy for contending rosters right now. You know, they just traded away Jordan Mason. They'll have Isaac Correndo as an RB2, and they also let Elijah Mitchell walk. They'll probably draft someone, but Christian McCaffrey signed an extension last offseason. Don't forget that he's going to be a focal point of their offense. All right, tier number 6. We've got a bunch of veterans and a couple young guys mixed in there. The David Montgomerys, Alvin Kamara's, Joe Mixon's, James Connors of the world. These veterans that you can rely on to be kind of the RB2 on your contending roster. You know, obviously Alvin Kamara has huge upsides in PPR leagues. James Conner just signs the extension this season. Joe Mixon has a great season with the Texans. Now, David Montgomery, I am a little concerned because Jahmyr Gibbs is just so good that when they lose Ben Johnson, what will the next offensive coordinator think of? As far as Tyrone Tracy here at 23rd overall, this is another guy like Chase Brown. If the Giants don't draft the running back and they really let Tyrone Tracy have another year as the guy, then we will be comfortable moving him up drastically. I'm confident he'll finish like top 16 in points per game. Now, to finish this list, we have 2 rookies. And of course, draft capital will change things, right? But we've got Cam Skattebo and DJ Giddens, 2 guys that I'm absolutely in love with. You know, Skattebo, I keep comparing him to David Montgomery as a player. Funnily enough, they're in the same tier here. David Montgomery went in round 3, right? Coming out of college to the Chicago Bears. I think we could see Cam Skattebo do something similar. And what is drastically under-discussed about Cam Skattebo's profile is his receiving up game. He's a serious receiving I mean, he could be on the field for 3 downs for sure for an offense. I mean, he'd be the perfect fit for Chicago, actually, which is funny. All right, DJ Giddens, someone that I believe has been under the radar this entire offseason for the rookie class. He comes out at the combine and just completely crushes it. And I already love the film. All right, tier number 7. This is a big one, so let's get through it a little quicker. Najee Harris, I talked about Najee Harris on the previous video we posted, talking about selling second-round picks or buying second-round picks. And we talked about Najee Harris in depth. You know, he goes to the Chargers. It's a great landing spot. If you look at yards before contact per attempt last season, the Steelers' offensive line was really rough. Najee did not have many clear opportunities to really, you know, make these explosive plays. But at the same time, it doesn't look like he has much juice. Now, it was originally reported that Najee would get about $9.5, I think, million this year on a one-year deal. That was later rescinded, and it's more around $5.25 million. I mean, for example, Devin Singletary makes more money. Rico Dowdle signed for more money. So it doesn't really tell me that they're going to just trust Najee Harris alone in this backfield. It tells me they're probably going to bring someone else in, whether that's re-signing J.K. Dobbins, drafting someone like a Bashul Tootin, you know, a Travion Henderson to complement Najee Harris. So I don't want to be too bullish on Najee, but I can also recognize that there's an upside here where he is like the next David Montgomery for your dynasty teams. At 29, Aaron Jones, who we originally had in tier 6 by James Conner, right? He signs the 2-year extension with the Minnesota Vikings. I didn't anticipate him doing this with the age of 30, or the Vikings signing him to this rather. Now, here's the kicker though. The Vikings just traded for Jordan Mason. They sent a 6th-round pick, but more importantly, they gave him a 2-year deal with $7 million guaranteed, a maximum value of $12 million. So if you think about it, max value on these two contracts, $32 million. I know Aaron's got 13 guaranteed, and you know, Jordan Mason has $7 million guaranteed. But that tells me that's going to be their 1-2 punch, right? And Jordan Mason was incredibly efficient last year. Yes, he was in a great offense, right with Shanahan, but I think he has a chance to be an important part of that backfield, and that's a little concerning with Aaron Jones, especially with his injury history. All right, at 30, we've got Tony Pollard, who's going to lead his backfield. At 31, we have Isaiah Pacheco, who, you know, you can make the case that Tony Pollard, it took an entire year to recover from the injury that Pacheco had. Maybe they still believe in Pacheco in Kansas City, but I would not be shocked if they draft someone and then you're kind of stuck with the bag. Travis Etienne, can he revive his career under Liam Cohen? Trey Benson, can he, every time he gets opportunities, he looked great last year, but can he supplant James Conner, right? We know how talented he is. Bashul Tootin comes out the combine and absolutely dominates. My ceiling pro comp for him is James Cook. And then we've got Jaylen Warren at 35, who is set to step in and be the guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, I wouldn't be shocked if they still add someone to this backfield. I'm not 100% sure that they want to trust Jaylen Warren as their sole running back. All right, into tier 8, last tier here for the video. A bunch of rookies in this tier, right? RJ Harvey at the end of the list. We've got Brashard Smith and Devin Neal and Dylan Sampson, Damian Martinez. I love all these guys for various amounts of different reasons. Shout out to English class, right? Sorry, my English teacher out of high school. I'm trying my best. But here's some other veterans that are kind of thrown into there. Guys like Brian Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams. These are guys that I've been encouraging you guys to sell all offseason. Brian Robinson was the definition of replaceable, especially from like week 6 onwards, even into the playoffs. He was completely replaceable. They need a true difference maker there. Ramondre Stevenson couldn't hold on to the damn ball. And the guy who just signed him to an extension is no longer his head coach or, you know, the same people controlling this organization, right? Javonte Williams, he signs a contract that is worth about the same as Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson makes as much money as Javonte now. Who else? Justice Hill makes as much money as Javonte now. So sure, it could be a prove-it deal, but I still think the Dallas Cowboys are going to add even beyond Miles Sanders, right? I said this before they added Miles Sanders. I think they're going to add another back into that backfield along with Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. If they don't, we can reassess. Charbonnet, unfortunately, just kind of cucked right now. Jordan Mason, I have here at 41. Jordan Mason, I think you could have him as high as like 33. Honestly, I don't think that's too crazy to put Jordan Mason that high. In 2024, if you look at minimum 100 rushing attempts, he was 6th in yards per carry. He was 10th in yards after contact per attempt. He forced 37 missed tackles on limited work, and he had the 6th best breakaway percentage with those explosive plays. I think he could be the perfect fit in that offense there in Minnesota. And I love Aaron Jones, but I would not be surprised by the end of 2025. We're talking like, man, how good was it that you had Jordan Mason on your team, man? I can't believe he finished top 12 in points per game. All the signs were there that he could have done it, you know. So I really like this fit for Jordan Mason. I think it's the perfect fit, even above San Francisco, because there's no Isaac Corrento here to contend with as the RB2. Like, you're the clear guy. We're not worried about Ty Chandler or Cam Akers. So J.K. Dobbins' last name there, if he signs somewhere, well, then we'll have to reassess. He hasn't signed anywhere yet. Maybe by the time I release this, which is literally only tomorrow, he'll sign somewhere, but it's a little concerning that he doesn't have a market yet. So we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching the video. Do me a favor, hit that like button to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. And I'm probably going to bring out the wide receiver updated rankings for the next video. Let me know if you'd like to see that. And I'll see you guys in a future one. Nothing but love. See ya. If you're thinking about supporting us in this economy, that's big love, and you deserve love in return. So for every yearly Mother Flocker member who uses the promo code LAND, we're giving out a free team playbook, our 2025 rookie report, access to all premium tools, free site vouchers, and of course, a huge thank you from the LAND crew. You're far too kind. That's love.